right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome once again to Pass Pirate Pay, the movie discussion show. My name is Ken. I'm your host, alongside my co-host, Andy.
Oh, hello there.
How are you doing today, Andy?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Ken?
Excellent. Thank you.
Nice.
So today, in honor of the new Sean Baker movie, Anora, we're going to be discussing 3 movies about prostitutes.
Yes.
We got some pay-for-play movies going on today. We're going to be discussing Anora, along with Pretty Woman and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yes.
So, this should be a fun one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of fun.
All right. Let's,
we should charge for this hour, our listeners.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, it's an honor system kind of thing, right? So if you go to the website, you can put some money in if you feel like we've satisfied
we don't have
you.
that yet.
Oh,
we will after this episode, though.
If you're feeling satisfied.
We are whores as well, Ken.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. What do you say?
All right.
All right, let's do it. Let's start with 1990's Pretty Woman.
All right. Now, so I didn't want to do Pretty Woman when we first discussed that we're going to do prostitute movies.
Yeah.
But then you said you'd never seen it.
Never seen it.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because this is an iconic movie, right?
Yeah, like everybody saw that when it came out.
And I consider myself something of a movie person, right? You know,
Yeah.
I've probably seen more movies than 99.99% of people on this planet.
Probably.
And but this is one of, the 100 most iconic movies in the history of American cinema.
It's pretty iconic.
And I never once saw it.
So I watched it again
Uh-huh.
to familiarize myself with it. And as I'm watching it, I go, have I seen this?
That's funny.
I'm like, I might not have seen this. I might just have seen all the clips from all time.
Right.
And just thought, oh, I'd seen it. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw it.
Yeah.
But I have no recollection of seeing it now.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things I had no recollection of.
Yeah, certainly my not having seen it did not prevent me from knowing a lot of the really, really iconic scenes, like when she goes back into the department store that snubbed her. And like that's, I knew exactly what was going to happen there. That's, seeped into pop culture. A lot of this stuff has,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had not seen it. It's crazy.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
Let's do it, right? Okay, so this movie came out in 1990. It's directed by Gary Marshall. And I want to start here. Because this movie is so iconic, when you hear the 2 words Pretty Woman, it's just like, the image of Julia Roberts pops into your mind. You know this is exactly what you're saying, what you're going to be seeing. You know what this movie is. And it never really occurs to you that this is an all-time stupid title for a movie.
It's a pretty bad title.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's become so part of our consciousness that we don't really think about it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, why the hell is this movie called Pretty Woman? Right? Like, I guess the Roy Orbison song is the idea, and the song is used a little bit in the middle of the movie.
A little bit, yeah.
But like, I don't know, like Fairytale of Los Angeles, or like the movie starts with the song King of Wishful Thinking. So why not Wishful Thinking? Why, like, that's equally as good a title, if not better. Like, it's like they put zero thought into this.
That's a studio head title.
Right. It's so ridiculous. Like, Pretty Woman. It's
like,
so
hey,
stupid.
This Julia Roberts. She's a real fox, right? I got a great title for this. I like Pretty Woman, huh?
Yeah. It's just, it's so ridiculous. I don't know. It's one of those things that you
like
never
Harvey
think about.
Weinstein came up with that, you think?
Oh man, but yeah. So it's like, come on, we can't do better than this. I think if they had known that people were going to be talking about this movie 35 years later, they'd be like, maybe we could do a little better than this on the title, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we could have tried a little harder. But I guess they probably had no way of knowing what this movie was going to become.
So far, the title is bad.
It's just bad. It's just a bad title.
Not a good start for Pretty Woman.
Really, you can't talk about this movie without just digging into Julia Roberts, right?
This is what launched her into superstardom.
She was barely in anything before she was in this. She was like one of however many people in Mystic Pizza, and she wasn't a star. And then after this movie, she was one of the biggest movie stars on the planet.
And stayed that way for a long time.
Forever, yeah, exactly. So basically, the reason I never saw this movie is because I had like rom-com allergy when I was a kid, where it's just like, if something was like, ugh, that's a chick movie, I have no interest in that.
How old were you when this came out? This was what,
1990, so I was 11.
Okay, so I was maybe a little bit older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
Yeah. And
Like I think to teenage boys, rom-coms are just a complete waste of
yeah,
time.
exactly. And as I got older, I started to realize that those movies can have some value.
Yeah.
But when that happened, I just never went back and visited the old classics, you know? So my Julia Roberts experience is pretty different from what other people, like I've never seen this. I've never seen My Best Friend's Wedding. I've never seen Notting Hill. I've never seen America's Sweethearts. Like I've never seen any of her big rom-coms.
Which are all like big heavy hitters in the rom-com pantheon.
Yeah.
All of those.
And so Julia Roberts is just, her stardom has always kind of baffled me, where it's just like, because the movies I've seen of hers, I've seen like Ocean's 11, and I've seen The Pelican Brief or Conspiracy Theory, like the non-rom-com-y stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. I don't really get it with her. I never really got it, right?
Erin Brockovich was good.
Erin Brockovich is okay. I think she's good in it. I think she robbed Ellen Burstyn of an Oscar, but that's because Ellen Burstyn in Requiem for a Dream is one of the best performances in the history of movies. I consider, it's but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, she's fine in the Ocean's movies. She's just I don't know. She just never really clicked for me. I never really understood it. And then this movie, I get the feeling the way this character Vivian is written. It seems like it was written for an entirely different kind of person than Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Like, she's incredibly awkward. Like, Richard Gere's character is constantly telling her to stop fidgeting. She's fidgeting all the time.
Yeah.
Like, she seems to have a lot of insecurity. And she's also, like, street tough at times. Like when she's at the polo match and she does the Arsenio Hall dog pound. Woof, woof.
Yeah.
It's like these are not qualities I associate with Julia Roberts, right? Like this tall, gorgeous woman being like awkward and fidgety. It seems very strange to me. All that being said, I watch this movie and I look at her performance and I totally get it.
Yeah.
She is undeniable in this movie, I think.
Okay.
Like she is so charming and so captivating on screen that I can't deny it. I totally understand how she became the biggest woman movie star of the entire 1990s based only on this movie.
Okay.
I think she's absolutely phenomenal in it. Just like all of the stuff that she's doing, even the fidgety stuff, or when everything she does is just so endearing. I can understand why the world fell in love with her. Like, I kind of fell in love with her in this movie. It's unbelievable.
I have kind of a different opinion on it.
Okay.
I think all the things you're saying is true. I think all that is true. I just didn't believe that she was a hooker.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
think
totally
she was
agree with
too
that.
hot. I don't think her past, even though they touch on it a little bit, I don't think her past drives her into it as much.
Yeah.
It feels like the hooker thing is kind of like a playground.
Yeah.
And not gritty at all.
I agree. I think, I think she
but
is.
I think because of the whole nature of this movie, that it's kind of like a fairy tale.
Exactly.
Then you don't
exactly
really
what I was
need
going to say.
The gritty stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly what I was going to say. This movie is, so she says, one of the famous lines from this movie is, I want the fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
This movie is a fairy tale.
Yeah, it is.
It totally is. And what you're saying is, the entirety of Los Angeles in this movie is totally sterilized, right? She is absolutely not believable as a hooker. I agree with you. Like a Hollywood Boulevard streetwalker.
It's the trope. It's hooker with a heart of gold.
Totally implausible,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, it seems like the movie was not written for her. Laura San Giacomo plays her friend, her fellow prostitute. It seems like the role was written for someone more like that, right? She's shorter. She's a little more street looking. She's like less obviously beautiful.
She's a little quirky.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like that's the kind of person that the role was written for.
Yeah,
but
Julia Roberts is way too hot to be a street walking hooker.
She's just gorgeous. She's like she's like statuesque in this movie, you know? But yeah, so it's really weird how sterilized everything is in this movie. Like the movie, we're first introduced to the world of Julia Roberts's hooker cohort there's a murder. One of their or an OD or something. I don't even remember. But one of the hookers is dead.
Yeah,
like,
which is as gritty as it gets.
And Hank Azaria is a detective, and he's like shooing tourists away or taking pictures of the dead body. But it's just like there's a dead hooker here, and Laura San Giacomo is talking about how she's like addicted to coke. There's like hints that that's going on, and she owes money to this pimp. And she's trying to like not be under his thumb, and all this stuff is going on. But at no point do we feel any kind of danger in any way for any of these people, right?
No.
Like it doesn't feel at all dangerous. It doesn't feel like this is gritty or
no. It feels like they put that stuff in at the beginning just to go, see, it's gritty.
Yeah.
And then they threw it all away.
It just doesn't feel like anything bad can possibly happen to them out there at all, right? Like at one point towards the end, after Julia Roberts has decided that she's going to stop being a hooker and she's going to move to San Francisco, Laura San Giacomo is looking for a new roommate, and she's talking to another hooker about it. And the other hooker's like, no, I don't really have any of those possessions because the pimp guy that they all know burned all of her stuff once he But it's just like, this is all just jokes, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, none of this is scary at all. It's just, it's nothing, right? But yeah. You're right. It's totally unbelievable, but I think that's kind of the point, right? This movie is a fairy tale. And I realize that like this movie is meant to be a fantasy for women, right? This movie is not a movie that was made for me, right?
Right.
And I can back when I was a kid, when this movie came out, or even, in my teens or 20s, I'd just be like, screw this. I don't need this movie. What is the point of this? But now, you get older, it's just like, I can understand how things can be good, even if they're not made for me. And I think that this movie, for what it wants to do, succeeds fantastically.
Yeah.
It is a fairy tale. Like, if you think about Richard Gere's character, he is total wish fulfillment, right? He is like almost impossibly handsome and dashing in this movie. Like, he looks perfect. He's perfectly put together at all times.
Yeah.
But he's also broken, right? He can't
he's a
figure
victim
out
of his own success.
Yeah, he's a corporate raider guy, and he's an asshole, and he can't have any success in relationships because he doesn't value women
or anything really.
Yeah. It seems like, the central joke of the movie is that of his character anyway, is that he treats all of his girlfriends like prostitutes. So then when he hires a prostitute to be his girlfriend, that's when he actually figures out how to fall in love.
Yeah.
Right? So the fantasy is that Julia Roberts comes into his life and is able to make it all fall into place for him. And now, once he figures out how to love, he's like the perfect man, right?
Yeah.
And he shows up at the end in the limousine with the tuxedo, and he climbs up the staircase, overcoming his fear of heights, up the fire escape. And it's just like, she did it, she fixed this man, and now she can have the happy ending that she's always wanted. And yeah, it's a fairy tale. It's crazy. It's, and I don't know, the whole thing is preposterous. It's like, it's a very silly story, like everything that happens just seems totally happening just perfectly to fit the story of the movie. Like Jason Alexander is Richard Gere's lawyer, and he's like the total asshole guy who finds out that she's a prostitute and immediately just starts being a sleazeball towards her. At one point he tries to rape her. But again, that whole scene, because I don't know, it's because it's Jason Alexander. It's just like George Costanza.
Ain't no woman afraid of George
Costanza's not raping
him.
this woman. It's just not happening, right? It's the whole thing is
Kramer maybe, but not George.
The whole thing is not at all played for dramatic effect. It's just meant to heighten her awareness and allow Richard Gere to come in and save the day and punch him in his face and it's like, hey, you're you scumbag. So that whole thing, that whole character is ridiculous. Hector Elizondo as the manager of the hotel where they're staying.
Me and Josh are trying to figure out where we've seen him before, but he's been in everything.
Yeah. I don't really know him too well, but you're right. He's definitely familiar to me. But yeah, he's there, and when he comes in, the first time we see him, he like sees Julia Roberts walking by in her hooker outfit, and he's like, immediately his radar is up. He's like, what the hell? She's staying at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, like super fancy hotel, and we know what my thought is. this guy is going to be like, well, no hookers in my building. We can't allow this to happen.
Right, that's where you think it's going.
Right. And he's just going to be an asshole. But it turns out he's just as charmed by her as everybody is. Right.
Mhm.
So he's just like, well, Richard Gere is a very important client of ours. So you just don't be so obviously hookery. And then once he's gone, you don't come back and do your tricks here. And we're going to be getting along just fine. But every time he interacts with her throughout the rest of the movie, it's just like, oh, these people are cool. Like they're cool with each other. She's like, he becomes like her buddy.
Mhm.
You know, he helps her get her fancy non-hooker clothes, and he's just super cool to her. So there's no real drama there either, right?
Right. It's kind of what I like about all three of these movies.
Yeah.
Is they don't look at sex work as a negative thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, they look at it as a thing,
Right.
a functioning part of us, which it is.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Yep.
That's what I like about all these.
Yeah, like this movie is also weirdly not sexy. Like
It's not very, no.
Like for a movie about a man falling in love with a prostitute, it's just there's no nudity. There's no.
There's a little. I think I
I
saw Julie Roberts' nipple one time, and it's a flash.
Really? You must have been
Yeah.
looking a lot harder than I was, because I certainly didn't notice that. But like the first scene where she and Richard Gere get together, like she gives him a blowjob, but "I Love Lucy" is on the TV in the background while it's happening.
It is an "I Love Lucy" blowjob. They avoid everything.
You're right, exactly. Nothing is happening. And the first time we see them having sex, it's done on top of a piano, and they're both like we see them both as fully clothed, and like she's sitting on the piano, so the keys are plunking as they're getting into position. And it's
not
just
plunking fun.
No.
Just little tinkles.
Right.
Not like plunk, plunk,
Right.
plunk,
No,
plunk.
right, exactly. This is not a hardcore movie. This is, But yeah, it's the whole thing is very sanitary,
Yeah, and I think that was all by design.
I totally agree.
I think they were probably shooting for a PG-13, right?
Yeah. It definitely seems like, like this is the kind of movie that they're making, right? It's
back when ratings kind of mattered.
Right.
I don't think they do much now.
I don't know.
When I went to Terrifier, there was like a 10-year-old in there.
Oh, well, that stuff sure doesn't matter. But I think studios still think it matters somewhat. Like, I think studios are still afraid to make a really expensive movie with an R rating because they don't want to. They don't want to kill their audience, even though you're right. Most people just go see it anyway.
And this like had like everything else about this movie had the appeal to reach big giant audiences.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm sure that's why they toned that down.
Yeah. The thing about this movie is that on paper, it shouldn't work, I think. Like everything about it is generally stuff I don't like in movies, like a slick Hollywood production without a lot of reality, without a lot of real
it kind of formulaic
drama, very
predictable.
formulaic. Yeah. Very, like you know where it's going immediately, and then it just goes there.
Right.
But I don't know. Like, I don't think Julia Roberts, based on everything she's done in her career, is a great actress. And I don't think that Richard Gere is even a good actor. But they're both so perfect in this movie.
Yeah.
And their chemistry is so great. And Julia Roberts is so charming that I just couldn't help myself. I just really liked this movie.
Yeah.
It just really works.
I kind of did.
Yeah.
From what I remember, I liked it a lot more.
Uh-huh.
And when I rewatched it, I kind of didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
But I think all the things you're saying are right.
Yeah.
Like, I think the same thing.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Somebody, while I was at work, somebody asked me about this show, and they're like, "What's the next movie? What's the next show you're doing?" And I was like, "Prostitutes." And I was like, "Yeah, we're doing Pretty Woman," and I had never seen it before. I just watched it last night, and he's like, "Oh, it's great, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's really good." And then we're both like the same way. We're both just like, "Yeah, those two people are just so charming. It's amazing."
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
It's cool that we've got fans of the show that wonder what's coming on next.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I kind of like this movie in spite of myself, right? Like it was able to bypass the critical part of my brain.
That is movie magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what they're supposed to do.
Right. Yep.
Like,
exactly.
give you the suspension of disbelief, and you bought in.
Yep.
Which is great.
Totally. I totally get it. It's just a movie that works. It does the thing. It doesn't set the bar for itself very high. It's not setting out to change the world. It just wants to be a good story and make you fall in love with these people. And on that ground, it totally succeeds, I think.
Yeah. And also, what I like about all three of these movies and movies in general, I like it when a movie takes place in one little span of time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whenever they try to do this big spanning epic of all these years, you feel like you're getting just a little dash of all the things you want to see more of.
Right.
And I love when a movie goes, this takes place in a week or a day or 2 days or an hour.
Yep.
I love movies like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that too. I think that's really cool. Yeah, the only other one thing I would, the one thing I wanted to talk about was the scene where it's the first morning after they spent the night together.
Yeah.
And Julia Roberts is in a bubble bath singing along to her Walkman, singing Prince Kiss.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, how fucking adorable is that? She's like
pretty adorable.
She's like doing this off-key falsetto, and then Richard Gere comes in and walks in on her singing, and she just like gets this super sheepish, embarrassed look on her face, and she's like, "You gotta love Prince, right?" Yeah. And it's so adorable. It's so amazing.
She's a really good actress.
Yeah.
Like, she's really good.
I in this movie, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Like, she totally gets the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So is that it, Ken?
Yeah, that's it. That's Pretty Woman.
All right. So what is the rating on Pretty Woman, Ken? Is it pass, pirate, or pay for you?
Pretty Woman, to my great surprise, is a pay.
To my great surprise for you, that is a great surprise.
Yeah, I did not expect it. I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely didn't expect to like this movie
when I was
as
watching
much
that
as I
movie,
did.
I'm like, oh boy, Ken is gonna hate this.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. That's nice.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm a pay too. I'm a very tentative pay though.
Okay.
I'm right on the line.
Yeah.
But it's a pay for me.
Great.
It's a good movie.
That's great. We did it. Pretty Woman. All right, our second movie is The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas from 1982. It's directed by Colin Higgins and stars Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton is the madam of the titular whorehouse. Titular is the optimal word here. Basically, what happens in this movie is there's a whorehouse in this little town in Texas, and everybody knows about it, and Burt Reynolds is the sheriff of this town, and he is carrying on the grand tradition of all the sheriffs in this town and is looking the other way to the point where he's actually, having sex with Dolly Parton on the reg.
It is. They have a very regular relationship. I think, though, she is the mistress, right?
She's the madam of the whorehouse.
Mean Burt Reynolds' mistress. Is that correct?
So he has kind of a girlfriend where he like spends Thanksgiving at this woman's house, and he's like a father figure to her son. But at one point in the movie, he says that he hasn't had sex with anyone other than Dolly Parton for 3 years. Oh. So I'm guessing this relationship with this other woman is very chaste or something, where it's just
and they are sneaking around.
They
right?
are sneaking. Yeah, nobody in town theoretically knows that he and Dolly Parton have this relationship.
Not even Gomer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't really understand what his relationship with this other woman is, but it's clear that this woman wants to marry him, but he's just like, I'm not the marrying kind, Right. And so I get if you believe what he says, he's not even having sex with her. He's just hanging out and watching football with her son, who's like 10 years old or whatever. It's that's all. Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, he's looking the other way for this whorehouse to carry on its business. But then some TV journalist guy, hard copy type person, is going to do an expose on this whorehouse,
right?
Played by Dom DeLuise.
I think played brilliantly.
Yeah,
by Dom DeLuise.
So Dom DeLuise comes in and he's doing an expose on this whorehouse, and he goes to the governor of Texas to get this whorehouse shut down. And the governor of Texas, he wants to be politically as sidestepping the issue as much as possible.
Yeah, there's a whole number about it.
Oh yeah. So he's going to do whatever is politically expedient. But eventually, what happens is Dom DeLuise sneaks a camera crew into the whorehouse and films some dudes getting off, including like a state senator. Everyone is pretending to be outraged about this whorehouse, and the whorehouse has to be shut down at some point. But yeah, so basically, we got a whorehouse. And everybody's okay with it until this guy goes on TV and makes everybody pretend that they're not okay with it, right? That seems to be the thing. So this movie starts, like you said, you mentioned Gomer Pyle. It's Jim Nabors. He plays
the legendary Jim Nabors.
He plays the deputy of this town. But basically, he plays Jim Nabors because that's what he does. He's just doing his Gomer Pyle voice the whole time. And it starts with like he's looking through like this old timey viewfinder thing, and it sets the scene as this movie is a very old timey feel. It's a very weirdly conservative movie. Like for a movie about a whorehouse, it does a weird little trick where it paints the whorehouse as wholesome Americana, right? Yeah. Like there's a song and dance number that starts the show about all of the rules that Dolly's madam has for the whorehouse, and no tattoos, and don't dress like sluts. These are ladies, even though they're prostitutes. But yeah, so weirdly, the whorehouse is on the side of conservatism, and like the Dom DeLuise character who is exposing this stuff is played as like this liberal East Coast Yankee coming in to disrupt the wholesome family values of the whorehouse. Right? It's a very strange line to be walking. And there's a lot of just very strange conservative things in here. Like there's a scene where Bert and Dolly are laying out in the grass, drinking beers and staring up at the stars. And they have like a 5-minute conversation about Jesus and how great Jesus is and how wonderful America is and how Bert still believes this is a great country and he's going to run for elected office, as become a state senator or legislator or something one day. And it's very strange. This is like,
it just shows you how things have shifted in the country. Maybe in the 80s, in the early 80s, that's how conservatives felt about sex work.
Yeah, I think maybe not about sex work, but I think like there is a very Reagan era thing where it's more libertarian than conservatism, like where it's just like, keep your nose out of my business, right? Where it's just like, these women aren't hurting anyone, and like they're very careful to make sure that nobody has the clap. We're not spreading any diseases. Everything
it's run well. It's a well run brothel.
Yeah, right. Exactly. As long as the black prostitutes are still having sex with the black Johns.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Because there's a grand tradition in Texas where the University of Texas A&M football game, and when the winning team gets to go to the whorehouse, right? So Texas A&M wins the football game, and the dudes are all excited, and they're going to the whorehouse, and there's one black dude on the team, and there's one black prostitute. And
which is unrealistic on both ends.
Right, of course. Exactly. But so when we're pairing off with the prostitutes, as long as the one black dude stays with the one black prostitute, everybody can do what they want.
There was a scene there was a whole song they cut out that Dolly sang called "No Mixin', Y'all."
Are you serious?
No.
I believe it. That is believable. But yeah, so okay, so here's where we're going to get into this. This movie is a comedy, right? I don't understand what is supposed to be funny about this movie.
You didn't think the Dom DeLuise scene was funny in the dressing room?
I thought that
was really funny.
Terrible. I thought Dom DeLuise was awful in this movie.
Oh, that's crazy.
I thought he
was like the best part of it.
Oh, I was so irritated by his character. I could not be less amused by his antics. Like
I like that stuff.
He's so over the top. Everybody in this movie is playing it very big, and I don't mind. I can like a broad comedy. It's totally possible. But man, I just didn't think it was funny. I didn't think any of it was funny at all.
What did you think of Dolly in it?
Boy, you're gonna be so mad at me.
You're gonna give my mama a heart attack.
You're gonna be so mad at me. I thought she is terrible. She's so bad.
I thought she was a treasure.
I know you love her, and
you are crazy.
I think as a musician, as a singer, yeah, okay, she's a legend, right?
What about the songs?
I don't know. I guess was "I Will Always Love You" written for this movie?
No.
Okay.
No, but Hard Candy Christmas was, and I love Hard Candy Christmas.
The song, her songs.
She wrote a few songs, and then in addition to the ones that were already part of the play.
I thought most of the song and dance numbers in this movie were very bad. The football player song and dance, in particular, to me was so annoying.
And long. It was
so
long, too.
So long. It just kept going
went from locker room.
And then they get on the bus, and then the bus has a flat. The bus gets a flat, and they're all in the truck, and the song is still going. It's like, holy shit.
And then there's a big dance number at the whorehouse.
Yeah. Oh, my God. No.
Yeah, the football dance number was a bit long.
Oh, my God. The only thing.
And it was a bit gay.
Yeah. Yeah. The only value I found to any of the songs was the governor's number. Governor, played by Charles Durning.
Oh, you liked it?
He does this number about it's like about sidestepping, where it's just like again, this is Ronald Reagan era, right? Where so the government is the enemy at all times, right? And so he's a sleazy politician, and his whole thing is, I'm not going to take a stance on anything. And he's doing this dance where he's constantly switching directions. And he has this recurring bit in the song where he keeps putting the hat on sideways and then like rotating his body 90 degrees really fast so that the hat stays in the same direction and is now sitting perfectly on his head. And he does it like 3 or 4 times. It's just really funny.
So that was the highlight of the film.
That was it.
For you?
That was my favorite part by far. I was ready to dislike it, and then once he starts doing his dance and he keeps doing the thing with the hat, and I'm just like, okay, this is really funny. This is
so
really
you didn't
good.
like the chemistry between Bert and Dolly?
No, man. I
thought it was really fun.
I
thought there was just this cannonball run era of actors having this great time. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a good movie.
It was not fun for me at all. And I think this is the only Dolly Parton movie I've ever seen. And boy,
you've never seen Steel Magnolias?
No.
Oh.
Again, Julia, blind spot. But yeah, I do not appreciate her acting ability in any way.
She was great. I thought she looked great. I thought the songs were good.
Yeah, I was not into it at all. Like, I think Burt Reynolds is not doing his best work either, but I thought he was acting circles around Dolly, to be sure. Like, I was just so not into it. I like Dolly Parton. I like her as a singer. I like a bunch of her songs, right? I mean, and I wanted to like her in this movie. But boy, it did not work for me at all. I was so unhappy while I was watching this movie.
Oh, I don't know how you could possibly be unhappy.
And so long, like you said with the football player's musical number, there are so many of the musical numbers in this movie that just drag and drag and drag for me.
I thought that was the only one. I thought the other ones were just fine.
And then this is a movie where a Texas lawman, a journalist comes into his town, and he tells the journalist at gunpoint to get out by shouting, "I am the law!"
Right.
And this is the guy
firing the gun in the air.
He's firing the gun menacingly in the air.
But he gets in trouble for that. Like, it's not reflected well, except by the townsfolk. They
Everybody
thought it was awesome.
loves him,
but not when it was on TV.
And then the movie ends. The whorehouse closes down at the end of the movie,
which I didn't think happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, this is another one I thought I'd seen, and I haven't.
Huh. But yeah, the whorehouse closes down, and the movie just ends with Bert and Dolly riding off into the sunset to get married. So again, it's just like, you say that this movie is positive towards sex work, but in the end, the sex worker can only have a happy ending if she gives up the sex work and submits to a traditional marriage paradigm.
I didn't say these movies treated like sex work. I said they viewed it in a positive light, and I think they still kind of did.
Yeah, I guess, but like in the end, she can't be happy until she stops being a madam, right? She has to settle down and become a traditional
I didn't think she ever wanted to stop.
But she does.
But she was forced to. Right,
but that's when she gets what she always wanted. She just gets to marry the man she always wanted and go off and live this traditional life. I don't know. It seemed like a big cop-out, the ending to me.
The whole first segment, I thought, his heart grew 3 sizes that day, and then this comes along, snaps us back into reality.
I don't know. This movie I like I said about Pretty Woman, the stuff that doesn't work for me was totally passed over because the performances just were able to make it work for me.
Yeah.
This movie, nothing about it worked for me. The performances I thought were just not good. The songs were not good. The jokes were not funny. Everything about this movie was a miss for me.
I thought the absolute opposite.
Yeah.
I was really happy watching this.
Yeah. Yeah. This just
absolute opposite. I thought it was really fun. I loved every part about it.
Yeah.
Except for the long football number. That was too long. You're right about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say about Best of Little Whorehouse in Texas. I think it's just not a movie that I can get behind. Can't do it.
All right. So just to make it official.
Yeah, let's make it official.
Is it pass, pirate, pay for you, Ken?
This is definitely a pass. I do not recommend anyone ever watch this movie.
100% pay.
Yeah.
100% pay. We're on opposite sides of the spectrum on this one.
Yeah. Yep. It happens. All right. Our final movie today is 2024's Anora, which is written and directed by Sean Baker.
Yeah.
It stars Mikey Madison as a stripper / prostitute who meets the son of some Russian oligarchs living in New York, and they kind of have a whirlwind romance.
Yeah.
And
before we get into this, can we discuss Sean Baker's previous works?
Yeah, let's do that.
What are they?
Okay, so the ones I have seen, the first movie I saw of his was Tangerine.
Was that the one that was filmed on an iPhone?
Made on iPhones. It takes place in L.A. It's about two transsexual prostitutes on the streets of L.A.
See that one.
Very different L.A. prostitute movie than Pretty Woman.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, very good. I really liked it. His next movie was The Florida Project,
which I hated.
Yeah, we've never talked about this, but somebody told me that you hated The Florida Project.
I hated it.
I think The Florida Project is very good. I don't
know what the pitch was for that movie. They're like, hey, it's a hooker in a hotel.
Yeah.
Can I have my money now?
No, it's the kids. The kids are the main point of the movie.
She has a kid.
Yeah, the kids are just so like the Florida
William
Project.
Dafoe's in it.
Yep.
So can I have my money now?
The Florida Project. It's these kids living in like Kissimmee or one of those tiny shithole towns right outside of Disney World.
Yeah.
So like these kids are growing up in the shadow of Walt Disney World, but they're living in like this white trash hotel environment.
Yeah.
And they're just like running around with in this theoretically magical place, living their shitty little lives. But they're kids, so they're enjoying themselves.
I thought nothing happened. I thought it was a terrible movie.
Yeah, I love The Florida Project.
Yeah.
And then his next movie after that was Red Rocket.
I don't think I've seen that.
Red Rocket's really good also. It's about a male porn star who returns to his home in like the Texas Gulf Coast and starts getting into trouble there. He befriends this like teenage girl and they start a relationship. And yeah, that's a really good movie too. And then now this one.
Okay.
So I really like Sean Baker. So I was very excited for this movie. And then I saw this movie won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival this year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, those movies aren't always great, but like the Palme d'Or was won by Parasite and Pulp Fiction and Apocalypse Now. It's like these are some heavy hitter movies.
Yeah.
So I was very, very excited for this movie. Then I saw the trailer and
the trailer did not make me want to see it very much.
Yeah, I was very excited. So that's why I don't usually press for things that I want us to do, but I was very impressed. I very much wanted for us to talk about this movie even before I had seen it.
Okay.
So sex worker Annie, Anora, she meets this kid Vanya. He's the son of these Russian oligarchs. And they meet at her strip club, and then he makes an arrangement for her to come and have sex with him at his mansion. And they do that. And then he decides he wants to pay her to be his girlfriend for a week, a la Pretty Woman.
There was a lot of similarities.
Yeah, well, this movie obviously knows how indebted it is to Pretty Woman. Like, there's a scene in the movie where they're negotiating her price for the week. And he says $5,000, she says $10,000. He agrees, and then she's like, "I would have done it for $5,000." And
that's right. It's the same exchange.
Yeah, he said, "I would have done it for $5,000," and he says, "If I were you, I would have done it for less than $20,000." And it's just like right out of Pretty Woman.
Same exchange.
Yep. And
I forgot about that.
Yep. And in the way that Pretty Woman is a fairy tale. So after they spend the week together, he reveals that his parents want him to come back to Russia, and he doesn't want to do it. So he's like, "Well, if we get married, then I can have a green card and stay in America." So they get married. They're in Vegas and they go to a wedding chapel and they get married. And then she goes back to her old strip club to turn in her resignation.
Yeah.
And somebody makes the point. It's like, oh, is this just like a fairy tale, you know? And she's talking about how they're going to spend their honeymoon at one of the hotel rooms in Disneyland. And she's like, we're going to get the Cinderella suite, you know? And it's doing Pretty Woman, like, for the first third of this movie. This movie is very clearly broken up into 3 distinct acts, I think.
Yeah.
And the first act, one of the things that this movie, I usually don't like movie trailers. I think they have a tendency to give away way too much of the movie.
Yeah.
And for this movie, I think the trailer did a great job of basically everything that happens in the first third of this movie is in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But the first third of the movie is basically just setting the table.
Yeah.
Even though most of the main plot points of the movie take place in the first third. And like you said about movies that take place over a distinct period of time.
Yeah.
The first third of the movie takes place over like maybe a month, where it's little snippets of things happening where she meets Vanya and then they spend the week together and then they get married and then they're living together. Right. And then the second and third part takes place over like a period of 24 hours.
Yeah.
Where after that. So the first third is everything you see in the trailer, and then nothing else that you see in the trailer happens for the rest of the movie. And it's just, I think the movie did a great job of not giving itself away, you know? And I like the first third, even though it's not the main important part of the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, you get to know who Vanya is. He's like this goofy kid. He's just got a lot of money, so he has no sense of responsibility whatsoever.
Yeah.
And anything he wants to do, he's just like, let's go do this.
Did you find him likable?
In the beginning, I did. Did you
Because
not?
I didn't
Yeah?
find him likable. I thought he was a douchebag through the whole thing.
Really? Yeah, I thought at the beginning he was kind of likable. I thought he was, you know, he seems like a lovable goofball to me.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that.
You know,
I
and
got a little bit of that, but I got a big douche too.
And he's just, the movie is so much fun. Everybody in the movie is having so much fun in the beginning parts. Like, there's a scene, I saw the movie twice, and the first time I saw it, I was like, what is this scene about? Where Annie and Vanya and a couple of their friends are out on a beach, and it's like January. And then there's this old woman who's a polar bear of some kind, I guess. She's going out into the river, into the river to do some swimming in January. And they're like, "What are you doing? This is crazy." And it's just like, I'm thinking about it the second time I saw it. It's just like, okay, I think we're just supposed to be watching these people, and they're just young kids having fun. And like, it made me feel like an old man a little bit, where it's just like, shit, man. I remember when things used to be fun.
Yeah.
But
remember going out on the strip and seeing weird shit?
Yeah, right. And it just seemed like the movie did a really good job of putting you into their shoes and being like, this is what it must be like to have infinite money and be able to have a good time in any way that you want, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, so that stuff is a lot of fun. So then the second act of the movie comes after they're married and they're back in New York. Annie and Vanya are on the couch. He's playing video games because that's what he does. It's like, it's this typical thing where you think if you think the guy's a douche, this has got to be a big part of it, where it's just like, he's got this beautiful young wife, newlyweds, and all he wants to do is sit there and play video games while she's like laying on him.
Really douchey.
Yeah. He's like, so he's sitting there playing video games, and there's a knock at the door. And this is where the movie really takes off. His parents in Russia are concerned about what's going on. They hear rumors that he might have gotten married. So they send his godfather, who is this guy Toros, who's some kind of priest in this Armenian church. Like, he's supposed to be looking after Vanya, and he's like, no, he's not married. I just saw him. Of course he's not married, but he doesn't know what's going on. So he sends his brother, Garnick, to come in and check on Vanya and be like, what the hell is happening with this guy? And Garnick gets this like henchman, guy named Igor, to come in.
Yeah.
And they're knocking on his door, and they're like, okay, if you're really married, we're going to have to talk about this because your parents are not happy about it. So they come knocking on his door. And they say that they want to see the marriage license, and they know he shows the marriage license, like, oh shit, it's true, he actually is married. Yeah. So Toros, he's performing some kind of like christening at his Armenian church,
yeah,
and he's getting all these text messages while it's going on. And in a really, really funny scene, in the middle of this church ceremony, he like pulls out his phone, and he's like, oh shit. because he finds out that this stupid kid, Vanya, that he's supposed to be responsible for, is just fucking him right over.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, God, I got to go take care of this stupid kid. And he just starts excusing himself from the church ceremony.
Yeah.
He's like right in the middle of it. He's holding the baby and he hands it to his wife. And he's just like, I got to go. He takes off his robe and he's walking out of the church. He's like, sorry.
I'm very sorry. I have to do this. That's really funny.
Really funny. So the two guys in the mansion, Garnick and Eager, they tell Vanya his parents are on their way from Russia and they're gonna take care of this, and he's getting an annulment immediately, and the shit is gonna hit the fan. So Vanya's response is bail. He just he throws on a jacket, and Annie is sitting on the couch and she's like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, we got to go. But she's not wearing pants. And it's January. And it's just like, look, we have to go now. And she's like, what do you mean we have to go? I don't even have any clothes on. And like, she starts to go to try to get some clothes on. But he's already out the door. And he's gone.
Yeah.
So then we spend the next third of the movie with Toros and Garnick and Eager and Annie driving around trying to find Vanya. And these scenes are hilarious.
Yeah.
Like really,
I
really
went with
funny.
my friend Kristen, and she goes, this is like a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
It's like the Coen Brothers made Pretty Woman.
I saw both times I saw this movie, the theater was very crowded, which I was really surprised at because, this is shit. It's a small movie and it's with no one you've ever heard of
a lot
in
of
it.
buzz, though.
Yeah, I think it's doing very good business because when I saw it, it was only playing at one or two theaters in town, and now it's playing everywhere. But yeah, both times I saw it, everyone in the theater was just cracking up during all of these scenes.
Yeah.
So like once Vanya bails and the two dudes are in the house like trying to calm her down, she is a maniac.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. That's a whole part of the movie.
Like Eager is he's trying to restrain her because he's standing there trying to calm her down, and she like wails him. She slaps him in the face twice, and like after she hits him, like he's got a little cut on his face and he's bleeding. He's like, wow, that was really impressive. But like, so he's trying to restrain her the whole time, and at one point he ties her up, but she's still trying to run away. So then Garnick is trying to tie her feet up, and she kicks him in the face. She breaks his nose, and for the rest of the movie, he's like bleeding from the nose and he's got a concussion, and he is just constantly chiming in these really stupid and hilarious comments. The whole thing is so funny, just really, really funny. It's a real crowd pleaser. The
trailer you wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, exactly.
The trailer makes it look like a heavy drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially when she's like, because you could tell that there's pressure from these big scary Armenian guys,
yep.
In the trailer. And then when you watch a movie, it's like, this is just a bunch of doofuses with a hooker.
Yep. and it's great. It's
looking for a douchebag.
It's so, and yeah. So eventually they get her calmed down enough to go out on the road and looking for Vanya. And like at one point they park illegally and their car is getting towed, and Toros, the priest guy, he starts yelling at the tow truck operator, and the guy's just not having it. He's like, I'll give you money, however much money. And the tow truck guy's like, nope, I can't take it. So he like backs the truck off of the tow truck.
Right, he gets in while it's on the
he backs it up and like rips the front bumper off the truck so that he can get away from this tow truck. And it's just like this, and the whole thing is just played for laughs, and it's done really great. So yeah, the middle third of this movie is definitely the most fun, I thought. It's really, really fun.
Spoiler warning, spoilers ahead. Skip to the next chapter or minute marker 1 hour, 1 minute, and 36 seconds to hear the verdict. You have been warned.
So then the final third of the movie, they find Vanya. He is at the strip club where Annie used to work and getting lap dances from her rival at the strip club. And when she finds out, she and this other stripper get into a bit of a scrum.
Yeah.
But Vanya is totally shit-faced. And they're like, nope, this is it. We're getting an annulment. And then they drag his drunk ass into this courthouse. And it's like, again, just a really funny scene where the judge.
It's a circus.
It's like totally mayhem. Like it's crazy. And the judge is like, the lawyer has no idea what's going on, and they're trying to pretend that Vanya isn't drunk, and Annie doesn't want to get the marriage annulled, right? Because she's married to this super rich dude who she kind of likes,
and she thinks they're in love.
Yeah, exactly. But so keeps talking and trying to say, my husband is intoxicated. You can't believe anything that's happening. And Toros just keeps like, this woman should not be talking. This should not be happening. And he's wearing a camel hair coat, and the judge keeps going, Camel man, sit down. So that's really funny too. But then Vanya's parents show up, and they realize that since they got married in Vegas, they have to fly to Nevada to get the marriage annulled. So they get on their private plane and they fly to Vegas, and the marriage gets annulled.
The actual law.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Then the movie starts to get a little dark, right? Where it's just like the movie is the opposite of the Pretty Woman fairy tale, right?
Which is what I kind of loved about it.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
Right, where this movie feels entirely real, right?
Yeah.
All of the people in this movie feel real
I also
people.
think the level of hotness of Anora matches the level of a stripper hooker.
Yeah, I agree. She looks like a stripper. Yeah. And all of the other strippers in the movie are actually played by strippers.
Okay.
Like he didn't hire actors. He actually hired.
He likes to do that, right?
Yeah. He uses real people to play these real parts. But even the other actors in the movie, like Igor, the henchman, he just looks like a dude who would be like working for a guy who works for a Russian oligarch. Yeah. Right. And it's just like,
the casting was pretty perfect.
Yeah. He's like, I need somebody who could conceivably be muscle for this guy in Russia.
Right.
And he's like, this guy. And he looks exactly like the part. This movie just feels real. But then the marriage is annulled, and they tell Annie she can stay one night in the mansion, and they're going to give her $10,000 for her troubles. But that's it. She's never going to see Vanya again, and it's all going to be over.
Yeah.
So the movie ends with Igor driving her back to her apartment, and he stole the engagement ring back. They took the engagement ring off of her finger. She has this giant rock that Vanya bought her, and they take it back. But then Igor steals it and gives it back to Annie as like this really nice gesture. And it's clear that he's like kind of smitten with her. Like he has this.
There's been a little thing between them. The whole movie,
he's got this tremendous amount of affection for her. So then, after that happens,
he's been really, really sweet to her.
Yep, she's sweet.
Been a total twat to him.
Yep.
Through the whole movie.
Yeah, the last night they spend in the mansion together, she keeps talking about how, oh, you wanted to rape me, right? You wanted to rape me, and she's being like really. Mikey Madison is playing it. It's like really super aggressive and spiky.
Yeah,
and Yura Borisov, who plays Igor, is playing it really low key.
Yeah,
really great, I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I wouldn't rape you. He's like, whoa, why wouldn't you rape me?
Because I'm not a rapist.
Because I'm not a rapist. Just like really simply, just a really great line delivery. I think he does. Yeah, I think he just does a really great job. So then the movie ends. He gets back in the car, and she climbs on top of him and just starts riding him. And then he like grabs her face and goes to kiss her, and she breaks down and sobs. And that's when, and then the credits roll. She's
So what did you take away from that?
So this is what I think. Number one, I feel like it's the upending of her fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like what would have happened in Pretty Woman if Richard Gere climbed up the fire escape and they have their magic moment, and then Richard Gere's wife shows up and says, no, you have to come home to your wife and kids.
Right.
And he would be like, oh shit, I forgot I was married.
And then,
Bye.
And then she goes back and rides the hotel manager and starts crying.
Well, no, but it's just like this life that she thought she had managed to get herself into is just all taken away from her, right? Because like Annie,
you could tell like throughout it, she was like, after she met him, after she saw where he lived, after they hit it off,
right?
She's like, this is it,
right?
This is my ticket out of all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could tell that her wishful thinking was dominating until reality set in.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when she was signing the annulment papers.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is it. This is the end of it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I got that too.
So, yeah. So that part of it, I think, is just the fairy tale comes crashing down, and that's what she's going in. But the other part, I think, is that it seems like the movie is setting it up that she only finds value in herself for her looks and for her body. Like Vanya didn't really love her. She's just like this hot woman who happens to speak Russian that he can have as a thing. So she doesn't really know anybody who values her as a person, but Igor seems to really, really care for her. Like he seems to actually like who she is.
Uh-huh.
And so she wants to thank him, I guess, by having sex with him because that's just what she does. Like her body is just this transactional thing.
Uh-huh.
It was interesting to me that she doesn't start crying until he tries to kiss her. And it's just like, she's so used to only being valued for her body that when someone actually seems to care about who she is, it just kind of all comes like coming out of her.
Uh-huh.
Like the just emotion just comes flooding out.
Yeah.
And you know, she just can't take it. She doesn't know how to react to this thing, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I found it incredibly moving. Like I'm a person who cries at movies a lot, but usually when I'm crying in a movie, it's like something is emotional happening, something emotional is happening, and I'm just like kind of caught up in it. But something happened to me when I was watching this movie that has never happened to me before, where I'm watching the movie and then the end happens and she starts crying and then the credits roll. And then like 5 seconds after the credits roll, I just started sobbing. Like, I think that the movie does such a masterful job of creating empathy for her.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, because it's so much fun, right? So much of the movie is spent having a great time. It's so fun and we're just on this ride.
Yeah.
That it's just go, 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 go the whole time. But
Yeah.
then the ending, we're just becoming more and more, it's slowed down. We're realizing the reality of her situation. And it's just like, you realize that you've been rooting for her this whole time because her character is just so likable.
Yeah.
And then when she starts to break down, I just broke down along with her. I couldn't help myself. Like, I've never had a movie hit me this emotionally hard ever. Like it just killed me. The ending absolutely killed me. Like I was supposed to go see another movie right after this movie. And I was just like, I went to see it with my friend Mark, with our friend Mark, and I was just like, I can't go see another movie. I need to live with this one for a little while longer. You know, I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't emotionally get over that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I think this movie is kind of a miracle, because it's not often you can marry such humor and empathy at the same time, where it's just like usually because these guys, these henchmen, there should be cartoon characters, right? And all of these things that are happening shouldn't be emotionally resonant. But like, I actually you kind of understand everybody. Like,
everybody's got very clear motivations.
Yeah, like the Armenian dudes they're as much caught up in Vanya's bullshit as she is, right? You get the feeling that this is just the latest spill that these guys have to clean up. Like Vanya is just this tornado that destroys everything he comes into contact with. And these poor fucking Armenian dudes have to clean it all up every time, right?
Yeah.
And like one of the things that when Toros is trying to tell her, he is pissed off at her for not understanding what she's getting into. He's like, you don't even know this guy. And he's right. She doesn't know him. She doesn't realize that he is not actually in love with her. He's just a rich asshole who can do whatever the fuck he wants and has no concept of consequences.
Yeah.
And as the movie goes on, you just start to realize, it's like, fuck, these guys are, they're the antagonists, kind of, but at the same time, you kind of feel bad for them. They're like, they're just cleaning up this bullshit.
It was a giant mess. They have to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really weird that the tightrope that this movie walks between being hilarious and being empathetic.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I think it's a miracle. I don't understand how it pulled it off so well. And I
don't know about miracle.
That's just the way I feel about it.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. I think everything you said is right. I felt the same way.
I legitimately fuck, I think this movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah? How do you think it stands in Oscar season?
I honestly don't know.
I think it's got good chances.
Before the Parasite win happened, I would have said there's no way that this doesn't feel like an Oscar kind of movie.
No, but then Parasite and
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, it's the Oscars seem to be doing better. I think Mikey Madison has an absolute chance. I think she's got to be the favorite to win Best Actress.
Yeah.
I think she's totally remarkable in this movie. My experience was she was the oldest daughter on the Pamela Adlon show Better Things,
right?
Which I think is a good show. But she wasn't really remarkable to me as a character. And then she's also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
She plays the Manson family member who gets flamethrowered.
Yeah.
And I thought she was kind of bad in that movie where she's like freaking out and screaming for most of the second half of her part of the movie. And it's just like, I kind of find her obnoxious and irritating. So for her to come in and do this thing where
it felt really real.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a documentary sometimes.
Yep.
And she pulled off that role really well. Like she was a hooker from, where were they? At New Jersey?
It was in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like it.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. So yeah, I think she should win, and I think she has a really good chance. But sometimes, the Oscar acting categories are stupid, where it's just like, if somebody does an impression of a famous person, they have a 50-50
or
chance
they're
of
in a Holocaust movie.
Yeah, right. Like, if Michelle Williams stars in Rodham, the Hillary Clinton story, then she's going to win the Oscar for just because, I know what Hillary Clinton looks like. It's just like that. And that's like, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that sometimes wins at the Oscars. But
Michelle Williams would be a good Hillary Clinton.
I think Michelle Williams is great, so that's nothing against her. But it's just so stupid that that's the kind of thing that wins acting awards sometimes. But yeah, I think, man, if this movie is not a Best Picture nominee, and if Mikey Madison doesn't win, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be very disappointing. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of the Oscar stuff yet.
Yeah,
so
there's
I can't
still
really
a bunch
say.
coming out, probably, right?
Yeah. But man, if I see a movie this year that is better than this one, I will be very surprised. That's what I think.
All right. So is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
So we have to go through the formality now.
Yes, let's do it.
Is it a pass, pirate, pay from you, Mr. Franco?
100% pay.
Yeah, me too.
I can't stress this enough. If you are listening to this show and have not yet seen Anora, go see it. It's amazing.
It's really good.
All right. So next week, in case y'all who are listening would like to get a head start on our conversation, we are doing religious-themed movies.
Yes.
So we're going to be watching Heretic, the new Hugh Grant horror movie. And to go along with the religious themes, we're also going to be watching Saint Maud and Red State.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen those or would like to refresh your memory, that's what we're going to be talking about. So we will see you then. Thanks for tuning in to Pass Pirate Pay. This episode was produced by the one and only Andy Morris. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. We'd hate for you to miss out on all the fun. Curious about where to stream the movies we talked about? Head on over to passpiratepay.com. We've got everything listed with handy links on where to watch. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page or stalk our cinematic musings on Letterboxd. Links are on the site. Got a movie or a TV show you think we should review? Fill out the contact form, or this is cool, you can even text us right through the episode player on our website's front page. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Until next time, keep watching, keep rating, and keep it past Pirate Pay.